Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, Mayor Wilson and City of Fairhope Department Directors. I'm Jim Bates. I am the facility manager here at the James P. Nix Center, Senior Activity Center, and I welcome you. And we are honored today to host the 2018 State of the City Address. Following the address, we hope that you'll stick around. We'll have some refreshments in the back. At this time, I'd like to ask Chief Pettis to give the invocation and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Chief Pettis.
Oh, gracious Father, as we come to you, we just thank you this afternoon, Lord. We thank you for all your mighty blessings you have bestowed upon us, Lord. We thank you for this great city that we live in, Lord. And Father, for each and every one that's in leadership, we pray for them right now, Lord, that they would do things as you do them, Lord, the way that you did when you walked this earth as a servant, Lord, that they would be a servant. It's not about them, but it's about you. And we just thank you for it right now. We ask that this meeting that we hold this afternoon will be done decent and in order, and we give you all the thanks for all things. In your precious Son, Jesus' name, we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. At this time, Mayor Wilson will be coming.
Thank you so much, Chief. Beautiful prayer. Good afternoon, and thank you all so much for coming out today. I'm delighted to welcome you to the annual State of the City Address, and I'm pleased to say that the State of the City is great and strong. We wanted to liven up this year's format and break down the facts with a video of highlights, a by-the-numbers infographic, and a more detailed report, which you can find on our city website, fairhopeal.gov. Here is a sneak peek of the newly designed website, which will go live on June 15th. On our city Facebook page, on my Facebook page, Mayor Wilson, and a blog post on mayorkarenwilson.com. All these efforts are our way of providing myriad opportunities to communicate in the way you want to receive information. On your seats, you'll find this beautiful infographic. I love infographic information, but this breaks down by department by the numbers and gives some highlights. The other thing in your seat is the information about how to sign up for Everbridge. Everbridge is a new app that you can sign up for on your smartphone, and it will give you texts from anything from emergency notices to things going on in the community. You can make that choice when you upload the app. So I do encourage you to do that on the front page of our website. Also, recently, our police department made these available, which are available here at the Nix Center and at the police department. This File of Life, the pouch is to assist emergency responders. And it's a place it has a magnetic pouch, and it's a place for you to put it on your refrigerator with your emergency contact and medical information. The police department has also ordered stickers that can go on your door or window, and when those come in, I encourage you to do that so when the emergency responders come to your home, they know that that information's on your refrigerator. And it also includes Future Fairhope. This isn't brand new. It was printed in August of last year. It goes over, among many things, our past, understanding the vision that created Fairhope, our present, understanding today's Fairhope and the area's impact, our future, enhancing and preserving a vision for Fairhope. Now, we're going to premiere a brief video that hits just some of the highlights from last year. I'd like to thank Joseph Tirabella in the audience tonight, the videographer, a high school student graduating this year, and Fairhope volunteer Ron Mazares. I'm not sure if he's here or not, but he is the voiceover. At the conclusion of the video, I will join department heads to answer any questions you may have. We think you'll agree after watching the video, a lot has been accomplished this year. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Karen Wilson, Mayor of Fairhope. The State of the City is our report to our citizens on the condition of the city, its finances, and major projects that affect your quality of life. This year, we wanted to reach more of you through increased communications, like the following video. We hope you enjoy it.
There's something magical here. Some just say it's a special place. Many say it's always been that way. It's a town on the eastern shore of Mobile Bay. It's Fairhope, Alabama. It was a town founded on a utopian vision in 1894 that simultaneously encourages individual initiative and promotes cooperative ventures and attitudes. Almost 125 years later, the city of Fairhope is a thriving community, due in part to measures taken to ensure fiscal responsibility to achieve its future goals. Those goals have been aided by the recent award of almost $18 million in Restore Act funding from the BP oil spill, which Fairhope applied for in 2017 and will be used for 4 major projects. A $10 million 5-year sewer upgrade that will greatly reduce the pollutant load and discharges to Mobile Bay. A $650,000 Fairhope area community-based comprehensive land use plan, which will serve as a guide for all future planning, ensure responsible growth, and protect the environment. $1 million for a sanitary sewer overflow prevention plan, which will develop a solution to prevent sewer overflows on the eastern shore. Lastly, a $6.2 million working waterfront restoration and redevelopment project, including bluff stabilization and shoreline protection. This year, the city also begins a 5-year project to upgrade our gas and electric utilities. Upgrades to the city's infrastructure and municipal services are in response to explosive growth. The latest census figures indicate that Fairhope is the fastest growing city in the fastest growing county in the state. Plus, Fairhope is again one of the top 10 small towns in the South, as rated by Southern Living magazine. City and county leaders agree that cooperation on infrastructure, responsible growth, and managing sprawl is essential to maintaining the quality of life we love and that draws others to us. To ensure responsible and logical growth throughout our planning jurisdiction, our planning department reviewed ordinances with the aim of increasing thoughtful planning before permitting. Our Economic and Community Development Department has secured over $4 million in grant funding, which will focus on improvements to pedestrian safety, building a new Bratz Hub in downtown Fairhope, and a roundabout at the dangerous intersection by the Fairhope Flower Clock. By expanding the central business district, walkability and reinvestment in downtown are increased. Sidewalk expansion and wayfinding signage will make our community even more accessible. Design improvements to our parking garage and alleyways will lead pedestrians to shopping, restaurants, and other attractions. The city has also assumed management of the marina property across from the Fairhope Yacht Club. We will ensure Fairhope Docks Marina serves residents and visitors alike. Recreational opportunities are one reason that people flock to Fairhope. Recently, the city opened a new soccer complex featuring 9 full-size fields, which host a growing number of large tournaments. Installed new clay hydro tennis courts and a lighting system at the Mike Ford Tennis Center, which offers tournaments, league play, and clinics for all ages and skill levels. Last but not least, we upgraded facilities at the city-owned Quail Creek Golf Club, where 35,000 rounds of golf were played last year. But the word has to go forth, so increased and transparent communication between public servants and residents of Fairhope will also be furthered by the introduction of new processes and tools, which include an updated and more user-friendly website, increased text, email, print and social media communications, live streaming and recording of all meetings, an online public map viewer of planned developments. It's no secret. There's a spirit here. It started in 1894 with a vision, and it continues. It's true. Fairhope is a treasure, and we are committed to be responsible stewards of this vibrant, enchanting community, not just for now, but for years to come.
Got it. Okay. We'll do, until we've accommodated everybody who has a question, we'll take one question per person. We'll come back to you for infamous media follow-up questions. So, Maggie, let's go to you first. Next.
I'd like to congratulate the mayor and her staff, administration, and all the people in the city of Fairhope that work to make our town as special as it is. The video is beautifully done. Meredith Portman always does a great job. My concern, however, is there is nothing in the video highlighting the work that's been done over the last year that involved the consultants that were hired by the mayor and the city council, the Gulf Coast Design Studio, to help identify the needs of our underrepresented citizens on the south side of Fairhope. There's nothing in there, and I think that's something we should be proud of, that there is work going on to see that that is done. It gives us encouragement when we know something is being done and that it is highlighted, and I'm very disappointed that it was not included in the video.
A lot of things, thank you, Maggie. A lot of things were cut from the video, but I didn't stand in the blue box, and that was my, a lot of things were cut from the video, but there is additional information on the website. So the video is going to go live onto the website after this presentation, and there will be tabs that in each department you can go into and read more about the work that's been done, including the study you're talking about and the community work we've done.
I also want to mention, too, that the video is some highlights, but the normal state of the city that has all of the details is going to be online as far as what's going on in each department. And this is part of the planning department. And I'm very proud, too, of all the work that, and your help was a big part of it, with engagement in this community in ways that the city can do more and our community can do more. Believe it or not, there's 100 of those things that have been happening over the past year, and we would be here all week if we covered all of it. But this is, as y'all know, something very important to me, as is a lot of things that we just can't talk about everything, but it's really good news.
It's remarkable to me that the city public library was not mentioned anywhere. It's one of the city's greatest assets, and I think we should be proud of it.
I'll respond to that one. Of course, we're very proud of our library. The information that you have in front of you are really more focused on accomplishments the past year, things that have changed. You'll see in next year's State of the City something we are doing at the library, including the improvements to the building and a pocket park that we're doing on the side of the library, and we're working with the director and the board members on that. So it's not included this year just because there was nothing done, as part of this past year's work, other than, I hate to say normal operations because it exceeds expectations. Our library is fantastic. So that's the explanation for that. It's not an oversight and appreciation by any stretch, so I hope that's clear.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor, and to all. I would just like to state that if I didn't misunderstand the Mayor, that she wasn't going to be able to put everything on the video. Well, ever since you've been Mayor, you came to our community and gave us hope. But that this being on the video, it's not showing us that your real work, even though you may be working for us. But I think we came before a lot of these other things came up that was already being spoken about, you and your staff. Today, we haven't lost hope. We're used to being last in Fairhope. But every mayor has came through, ever since it's been a mayor in Fairhope, has made promises. And we're still looking for a mayor to be able to honor those promises. Thank you.
Thank you. The comprehensive land use plan, and we didn't go into great detail about that, but that could be really another town hall meeting, is going to define areas by community. It will be citizen engaged for that community, includes inside and outside the city limits. This is going to be the roadmap for the future, and it will be part of that community's vision. So where we didn't go into great detail about the land use plan, that's all part of every neck of the woods and every community, because what is happening and the growth that is happening in the unzoned areas is what will be addressed with communication and engagement with that area. And that's for every community. I mean, we're all in this together, and I've said that time and time again with all my communication. Everything right now is addressing my 4 major platforms when I took office. Communication. We have more communication now than we ever have. It is fiscal responsibility. I think that you can see by the numbers in your infographic. I mean, that's probably our biggest accomplishments, is what we've achieved in the last year in our finances. It is implementing responsible growth. We are well on our way to do that. So where you might feel that, or anybody might feel that they're left off, these are the broad strokes of what's happening. And there's lots of details that go in that. And part of the communication that we've been doing is with this community, which we've done for the last year. And it's one of those things that I guess I'm very proud. I try to summarize it the best that I can because there is so many good things happening. But just because it's left out doesn't mean it's a bad thing. These things are happening. And it's the broader picture that has to be addressed. And it has been addressed, and we're well on our way to accomplishing these big things. So.
Good afternoon. I'd like to say, first of all, I commend you for the video and commend you for all the efforts that's going on. I guess I started out in Fairhope in the 50s. And one concern that I do have, I've left Fairhope, I've lived in other cities, I've lived in Houston, I've lived in Cheyenne, Wyoming. I've watched growth, I know what growth is, I've worked for a developer. But one thing that I have seen year after year, no matter who was holding your position or the leaders here in Fairhope, when we grew up, there was not a boundary line. And there is a boundary line. And I'm praying that the city will wake up and reach out beyond the boundary, because her grandfather and her father built Fairhope, the buildings in Fairhope. And we would just never, it was never a separation of people. And that disturbs me. I'm a grandmother, and it disturbs me that you never see the backs, those people that made the city what it is. You know, I like to just see some accountability when videos are made, that you go back before Fairhope became a city, because there were people here before then. There were farmers, and everybody got along. I mean, I'm still talking to Mr. Bishop, that I think is almost 90 years old out there. And we can talk about Papa, and we can talk about those days, but let's not forget about the people that made Fairhope what Fairhope is today. But thank you again for all that you do.
Thank you for your question. You're exactly right. A community is made over a long period of time. Fairhope's been around for over 100 years, and there's a lot of people that went into making Fairhope what it is. So we really appreciate that. As a person who loves history, you know, I love to go and talk to Donnie Barrett about early Fairhope and what made Fairhope what it is. So we do respect that and appreciate that. And we also want to research from the planning side. I'm the planning director. From the planning side, we want to research that and try to incorporate some of those original design standards, those original concepts, the original people, and bring those ideas forward to today's planning. That's what we're hoping to do with the new comprehensive plan as well. Speaking of boundaries, obviously we know that you have the corporate limits, which is the legal limits for the city of Fairhope. There are certain things you can do within those corporate limits, and they're by code, they're by state statute. And then once you go beyond that, you have a couple of other jurisdictions the city has that goes beyond the corporate limits. The first one is the police jurisdiction. And the police jurisdiction, again, that's by state statute. It allows building permitting and a few things like that. Doesn't give us zoning authority, doesn't give us that kind of authority. It does give us a few issues with public safety and police protection, those kind of things. And then once you go beyond that, that goes out up to 3 miles. And then once you go beyond that, you go out 5 miles for the planning jurisdiction. That's a very, very defined purpose, and that is purely for subdivisions in the planning jurisdiction. So we do have the legal boundaries. We do have these other jurisdictional areas. I know one of the things that the mayor has talked about is annexation, encouraging annexation, bringing in those communities that have been a part of the city but not legally inside the corporate limits. And I know we're working hard now and researching how is the best way to bring those communities into the city to enjoy the full benefits the city has. As you know, the city is limited legally about what they can do outside their jurisdiction. We can't spend money, we can't do infrastructure improvements outside our corporate limits by law. We're not allowed to do that. So, but we would certainly love to see those communities that want to come in. We encourage that, and I believe that we'll continue to encourage that, and we work with people routinely who have annexations that are contiguous, that are single parcels, and we'll look at communities as a whole if they want to talk about annex into the city, because we do believe we have a great service to offer and have a lot of facilities the city owns, parks, and those kind of things that people could enjoy. So we're certainly mindful of those boundaries, and we do encourage annexation. And again, we are looking at ways to annex the larger communities and finding ways to bring those into the city that desire to come into the city.
Mayor asked me to make a couple more points. One is a couple projects that we're working on now. They're actually outside of the city limits, but we're collaborating with the county to build sidewalks that we are saying connect Fairhope to Fairhope. And that's going to go down South Section Street. And the idea was, I can't remember who brought up the boundary issue, Sheila, maybe it was you, but that's what we internally and externally are calling the project, connecting Fairhope to Fairhope. So to your point, we are taking action on that, and it's in the, what we talked about online, more information that will be listed on the website. That project is there. And Maggie, I just double checked, the South Fairhope Community Action Plan is also on the website. So, but we are actively, even though we're not it's not in the corporate boundaries, we are figuring out ways to partner and to do things outside of, what Fairhope, the city, can actually do.
And let me just make one clarification. When I'm saying boundaries, I'm talking about people boundaries. Okay, let me clarify that. I understand city limits, county, and all that. I'm not talking about incorporation. I'm talking about relationship boundaries, recognizing the people that are out there that are outside of the city limits, because they were here before the city was created. And I just never hear that discussed. I'm not talking about being able to police your, I'm talking about embracing and recognizing and acknowledging that those people were here also before the city. You just never hear about it. I know you can go to the museum, but I'm saying when you make a video or something, it would just be nice that is included somewhere, because those are the people that made Fairhope. I'm not talking about city limits. I'm talking about people limits, okay?
And I think also putting the physical infrastructure down, like the sidewalk, I think can address connecting the people part of it, to your point. And that's one of the ways we can do that. I know that there are many programs and things going on in the community that is working to bring the communities together. And I know there's a lot of work left to be done. And we'll keep doing our part as a city to participate in that.
And I should have prefaced this presentation with the annual State of the City is usually mostly financial updates. I'm not sure how many people have gone to the State of the City addresses in the past, but there are a lot of meetings that we can do that do different presentations, but the State of the City is just really a snapshot of where we are today, really maybe that is different than the year before. But it usually focuses on the financial aspect, which is why I kind of want to do the infographic and some of that stuff online, because they're usually kind of boring meetings. That's why I said, has anybody actually been to one before? But to your point, I think we need to do, and we do have another meeting, I think, recap, Sherry Lee, for this project. So that's when we're finalizing everything, summarizing everything. It's just not usually a format for the State of the City, you know what I'm saying? But I agree, when we talk about the past, that's why we have to look to the past to understand how we do what we need to do for the future. That's kind of part of that booklet too. We have to understand our history. And, but I hear you, and we will meet again for this process for this community, and hopefully really start moving forward some of these actionable things that came out of the plan. So.
Okay, yeah, I will get you. I just want to make sure, is there anybody on this side of the room who haven't spoken up yet? Have any questions over here? That's it. All right, I will come back.
I have been to a number of the review of the city meetings, and I don't quite understand why the finances weren't a little more detailed. For an example, did our revenue exceed our expenditures? And is that on this thing? If I see it, I don't understand it.
What I tried to explain, and maybe I didn't explain it well, but we have 4 basically ways to deliver the state of the city. The video is not all encompassing. It's just a video that we want to get out in a big way so people know what progress has been happening. It really is more that's been accomplished in Fairhope than in 15 years. I mean, it really is. We have, this is just a snapshot too by the numbers. Then you have the detailed report of the whole state of the city online, and I gave all of the things online. I mean, and the audit. The audit just came in the last, I'll let you speak to that.
Our audit just came back a few weeks ago, and it was great, turned out well. To answer your questions, revenues did exceed expenditures. Revenues increased about 12% for 2017, and the expenditures decreased 7%. We also decreased our utility transfers into the general fund by $3.9 million. So that's a huge, huge accomplishment.
How does that compare with prior years?
It compares to prior years in the way that before we were relying on our utilities entirely too much, and the 3.9 is a much greater number where it has decreased than in previous years. So it's just showing that we're relying a lot less on our utilities, and our general fund is able to support itself a little bit more and more every year.
Okay, we have a question back here.
I kind of want to talk about the new station that you're talking about, putting in between the 2 churches. And also, we live in the last 2 blocks of the city limits, and there's no underground drainage there. And when we had the last big rain, one of those, I guess what you would call it, cesspools or whatever bagged up, and we have kids that's living down below it, and it had feces all over the place. And so this feces is running into the waters and everything. So I don't understand. Fairhope gets money for all the areas in Fairhope, and I don't understand why we're left out and why all the hazardous things are being put in the black area. We already have 2 utility stations there on that street, on Young Street. And now you're trying to bring in a 3rd one in between churches. Do you hear me, churches? Shame on Fairhope.
And I'll kind of talk about drainage. And when I talk about drainage, it's stormwater runoff. As you know, we live in a relatively wet area. We did have rain weather stations in calendar year 2017 in our local area that recorded in excess of 96 inches of rainfall in last year's calendar year. We normally have an average somewhere between 66 and 70. There is no doubt that drainage is a constant, vigilant challenge. That is my area of expertise. That's what I spend a lot of time doing. We are unfortunately always in arrears in that, and the sense is that as you're trying to improve one area, either a failure or some systematic change occurs, and you have a new area that you've got to address and upgrade. One of the greatest challenges we have is that, one, when you think about modern drainage in the city of Fairhope, we have portions of our city that were plumbed for stormwater drainage 50, 60 years ago. And they used the best technology materials available. Most of it was corrugated metal pipes. Here's the problem. Corrugated metal pipes have about a 40 to 50 year lifespan, and they then corrode and rust out and start failing. Our whole central business district as well as a lots of the parts of the fruit and nut section of our community, all are drained mostly with that type of material. We are in the process of vetting engineers for several projects in that area that are going to include not only the utility upgrades, which Richard Peters can address, but it's also going to address drainage as well. Then in those areas that we know we have problems, for example, in the Tatumville Gully, I will tell you that we finally, and it's taken a while, and when you have grants and other compliance requirements, we did sign the contract with the engineer today for them to be cut loose to start out surveying and collecting data. And we're doing the first watershed assessment as a holistic review and approach to that drainage area, that drainage basin, so that one, we can identify the known problem areas and then propose what's mitigation efforts, what retention, detention, upgrades, improvements can be made, and have that model show us if it predicts success to eliminate flooding during the extreme events and things of that nature. But I do want to make sure that I will say this. When we have one of those extreme events, such as April 29th, 2014, a flood doesn't discriminate. We had houses flood that were very expensive to houses that flood in areas that were not as expensive. Rain and runoff and flood is an equal opportunity offender. There's no doubt about it. And there's to some point that when the system is completely inundated and it can't handle any more, flooding occurs. And there is no system that we're ever going to build that is 100% successful, hopefully through good planning efforts and good regulations for future developments. One, we're mitigating the impacts of the new development, and we're making sure that those developments for homeowners and things of that are being built in a way that there is not risk to personal property and things of that nature. Also, unfortunately, those same type of rainfalls play havoc on an aging sewer system, and overflows and things of that nature often are accompanied alongside of those extreme rainfall events. And I know that Mr. Peterson and his staff have been working diligently to get programs out the door to get those systems rehabbed, and I'll let him address those.
Thank you, Richard. We had a meeting this morning, as a matter of fact, and is Reverend Williams in the audience today? I had reached out to you early this week and this morning to see if you could meet with the electrical engineer that's working on the substation project to discuss the issues that you have. And I hate you weren't able to make it, but we were, wanting to address those issues with you and explain what we were doing on the electric side. As far as the overflows that we've experienced in the Tatumville Gully area, last year was about the first year that I know of that Fairhope embarked on a annual cured in place pipe replacement program. And we've just renewed it this year, and we've just got the engineer of record for that project on board. And so last year's project, we lined almost 3 miles of the sewer line in that very area. And so we are focused on trying to prevent those problems. We didn't accomplish everything we hoped we would accomplish with that project. So this year now we're going in, the first thing we're doing now is addressing some of the manholes that are in that area. And this is before we deal with the other 90 miles of wastewater that's in other parts of the city. So we are working on trying to improve your area because we know it's important. And we know, it's not something that we're proud to see during these rain events. And that's where we are right now with fixing that issue. Of course, we have a lot of other issues to deal with as well. And the council approved negotiation of 5 contracts that will work on rehabilitation needs with the city and then some transmission needs that we'll have as we continue to grow outside the city. Yes, sir.
As the one who spoke before you, who was talking about drainage, talking about different water lines and gas lines that need to be done. And some of the areas he talking about need to be done didn't even exist when my community was part of Fairhope. So apparently, we would think the oldest areas of Fairhope should be the areas that you would concentrate on doing, because those pipes would have been there longer than the areas are down here where we are now. Fairhope, my community, have been here way before you had houses back up in here. So we're concerned now about making sure that these areas here that haven't been as long as my area have been existing. And then when it comes to the electric grid, that where you all talking about establishing this thing at, I would like for you to let everyone know how much radiation it gives off. And you know, you and I talk, and you learn that I do have some knowledge about when it comes to transformers that size.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now, not only the radiation it gives off, what is the distance of danger from that place that whom house or church may be within 100 foot?
Yeah,
and at some point,
did you get the
in a
information?
10-year span, somebody in those houses is going to end up with cancer. Now, I did my research on it.
Right. Did you get the information that we sent you after the council meeting where we spoke in the lobby about that? I know we sent some information from the Cancer Center to you in an email. And then I had the electrical engineer that's working on that project you're describing as a substation. He was here this morning to talk to you, and we tried to reach out to you this week to get you to come visit with us so we could share with you his knowledge. Well, I know, and I know that you had 2 phone numbers, and I was able to leave a message on one of them. So we're trying to reach out to get, you know, the information that you want, but the electrical system, part of doing any of this infrastructure improvement is trying to make the best use of the money we're spending on it.
Here's the thing. I know the citizens of Fairhope, not of my color. They want to see you all do something there. If you ask the average person that's not of my color, that's a citizen of Fairhope, would they be willing for you all to put some of that money, tax dollars, over in my community? They wouldn't have a problem with it. But you're trying to satisfy a few people over the majority of citizens of Fairhope. Now, it may not be coming down on the map, but I know for a fact, and you all know I know the truth.
I just want to mention to your point as well that all of these infrastructure upgrades and fixes, it's not like this whole department's out there fixing everything but one community. None of these upgrades have happened yet, due in part to, you know, getting the study back, having a plan to prioritize these. Much of it was cut in the budget for that department to prioritize some of these needs, which is why I was so excited to announce the $10 million that we were just awarded and won't have the funding until the beginning of next year that will address its infrastructure, but it's most importantly the rehabilitation of the sewer and stormwater overflows. So, you know, there's a portion of it that I can control, and that's kind of what I've highlighted, and then there's a portion of it that the funding needs to be approved, and that's what we're doing as well. But this is a whole citywide issue. This is not one area issue. A lot of people feel, you know, I don't want to eat up all of the time on the stormwater issue, because I do feel like that's another town hall, and we can do this, because this is about the state of the city. But I do want to go over just some of the highlights of the financial. Again, all of these things, there's a lot of information, but some of the keys, and this is extremely important, is we have increased our cash accounts. Wait, go back up to the top, please. We have increased our cash accounts by 24%, approximately $10 million in 1 year. This is all due to ending wasteful spending, and which has reduced our subsidy from our utilities and our reliance on utilities for our operation expense. I mean, this is huge. We have decreased city debt by 23%. We will be paying off city debt by 2020. We have reduced utility debt over 11%. And by 2020, we'll have reduced that by 35%. I mean, I haven't gone back and compared it to other numbers, but we are blowing it away. There is no comparison in any past that have matched these numbers. This is unprecedented financial success. And it has all been done in a year and a half. And that really is, you know, the state of the city is a big part of it, is the financial end. So, yes, ma'am.
Makes sense as to why that substation has to go on Young Street. Another one in the black area again.
Right. There's substations everywhere. There's substations in downtown next to the K1 Center. But what we need to do, and that's part of a council decision, and it's part of the process, and it's part of a communication that will happen. I mean, I'm not trying to cop out, but that decision doesn't have anything to do with me. That has to do with council and what we need to do to find how we need to upgrade these and consolidate spaces.
Are there any black members on the council?
Right.
Because someone would have objected to it.
Oh.
That goes in my
That's why I always say,
find some land that's not in the black area.
ma'am, I totally understand what you're saying, but this is this forum for the state of the city. Why don't you come and meet with me? And then I can bring in the people that make those decisions. This is about the state of the city, not a situation where I don't make that decision. I don't know if you've been paying attention, but when I give my input, I do give my input. And I think the people who have been paying attention will agree. I give my input, hope that it's listened to, and again, if you're paying attention, you'll know it oftentimes is not.
Okay, folks, we're coming to the end of our allotted time, and I'm calling for one last question. Dean.
Well, sir? 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 It'll be the same subject, but go ahead, sir.
Yeah, my concern is this. We'll last all the time. When are you going to think about us as let me finish. We're citizens of Fairhope. We was here before a whole lot of people got here. And we still last. We pay tax. I got a place down there where I live on Machon Street. It's always water there. It never dry. Mosquitoes so bad down there you can't even stay hard. Then we don't want that substation in our community. We don't need it. It's more land that you have. You can put it somewhere else.
Well-
Let me finish, then I'm gonna give it to you. Nobody came out to see us about it. We live out there. But you're throwing it out there, you're building homes all around, and we still standing still.
Okay.
But I can talk without the mic.
Well, no, we are running out of time, and this is a neighborhood issue as we understand it. And I strongly recommend the mayor and some of the directors will be staying after and can talk with you about your that particular issue. This is the state of the city, and we want to get to more rounded questions, if possible. The final question, Dean, did you have anything? You did have a question or not?
It's more of a statement than a question.
Let's end with a statement.
I came to Fairhope 45 years ago, and as Sir Thomas More, who once defined the word utopia, it is not paradise. Utopia, literally translated from the Greek, means nowhere. But Fairhope is as close to utopia, I feel, as you can just about get. We are working on solving so many problems right there. There's been so much transition within the city and transparency and all things that are coming forward that is the only way we're going to meet this crushing growth that we've got in the face of the greed of certain development that would rather make money over our long-term quality of life. I know, because I have been fighting to have a quality of life in Fairhope for almost 40 years, that we're making incredible progress on trying to create and keep what makes our quality of life as strong as it can be. But we've got to all work together, and inclusion and transparency are a huge part of that. But I love Fairhope. I'm here for the long run, and I commend Mayor Wilson and the incredible staff that she has and all that they're trying to do to keep us the greatest place to live anywhere. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, and I apologize. I've tried to reach out to Reverend Williams twice to get him to attend this meeting about the issue y'all are complaining about. And I don't know what else to do to try to promote every involvement that we can get with everybody that's involved in the process. We just finished our first year of sewer improvement projects, and we focused all of it in that area. And we understand there's problems there. We'll continue to work on them. I mean, I'm sorry that you're taking this as a racial issue, because it's not a racial issue to me at all. Well, well, thank you for being here.
Ladies and gentlemen, that does conclude the State of the City. I appreciate you coming. We do have refreshments in the back. We'd love for you to stick around. Please drive carefully, and again, thank you for coming.